Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon all of you. Today is our meeting number 35 in our Christian and Muslim dialogue. We start last video or last meeting discussing the Islamic beliefs and teaching. We explained or we start to explain what's meant by monotheism, and we break down the term of monotheism to be easy understood under three principles, which is the oneness of God in His Lordship, the devotion of all worship to the one God alone, and number three, the uniqueness and oneness of God in His names and attributes. We already explained the oneness of God in His Lordship. Now we will explain the second principle, which is the devotion of all worship to the one God alone. Only God is to be worshipped. God tells us that the purpose of the creation of humanity is to worship Him alone. Allah informed in Quran in Surah Az-Zariyat, Surah number 51, verse number 56, and I, Allah, created not the jinn and mankind except that they should worship me alone. The concept of worship is inclusive. Worship is not just traditional religion ceremonies or practiced. There is no monotheism in Islam. What's the meaning of monotheism? It is a mode of life in which one renounces worldly life to devote himself fully to spiritual work. In other words, one should not think about this life and isolate himself for worshipping. No marriage, no children, no work, just only worshipping. And this is in Islam is not like that. Worshipping in Islam is not limited for just such form. But in Islam, you can convert all your daily activities to a form of worship if your intention from these activities is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Honoring and caring for one's parents, as well as picking up a piece of broken glass from the sidewalk, all can be forms of worship if they are done with the intention to please God. The devotion of all worship to the God alone was proclaimed by all the prophets and messengers of Islam who were sent by God throughout the ages, and that is the core belief of Islam. The purpose of Islam is to call people away from the worship of creation and to direct them towards the worship of the Creator alone. This is where Islam differs from other religions. Most religions teach that there is a creator who create all that exist. They are rarely free, but yes, they call for to know the creator, but they are rarely free of some form of polytheism or idolatry with respect to worship. These religions either call their followers to worship other beings beside God, or they demand to call other being as mediator between themselves and God. All the prophet and messenger of God, from Adam till Muhammad, peace be upon all of them, called the people to worship God alone, without partner or mediator. This is the purest, simplest, most natural faith. Islam rejects the opinion also held by those cultural anthropologists that their opinion that the early religion of human being was polytheism, which gradually evolved to monotheism. No, in Islam and the Muslims believe just opposite for that. That human cultures descended into idolatry during the intervals of the time between many messengers of God. Even while the messengers were among them, many people resisted their call and practiced idolatry despite their warnings, the warning of the prophets. Subsequent messengers were commissioned by Allah to bring people back to monotheism. God created human with a natural inclination towards the worship of Him alone. But the devil, the shaitan, on the other hand, does his utmost to get people away and turn them from monotheism, attract mankind to worship of creation and become like in this idolatry. It depends mostly that most people have a tendency to focus their devotion on something they can visualize or imagine. But even so, they have the human being have instinctive knowledge that the creator of the universe is far greater than their imagination. Throughout the human history, God sent a succession of prophets of messengers to call the people back towards the worship of the one and only true God. But due to allure of the devil, people repeatedly deviate to worship of again deviated from the monotheism to idolatry again. By the time when the time passes and they become far from the message and the prophets, and some of them become godless. Now many people are become without religion, what we whom is known by atheists. This is a big percentage now. As we say, God created human being to worship Him alone. In Islam, the greatest possible sin is to worship anything or anyone other than God. Even if the worshipper intend to get nearer to God by offering devotion to another being. God is sufficient, does not need intermediates. He hears all of our prayers and has complete knowledge of everything that's happened. At the same time, God does not need our worship, but He says that it is pleasing for Him. He is completely independent of all things. All creation is depend upon Him. If every person in the world were to come together to worship only God, it would not benefit God in the least. It would not add an atom's weight to His majestic domination. Conversely, if all creation abandoned the worship of God, it would not decrease His domination in the least. But by worshipping God, we benefit our own spirit, our own souls, and fulfill the noble purpose for which we was created. God has no need. He is the eternal and absolute. Till this, now we reach the end of this video. Inshallah, we'll meet soon in our next video to complete our discussion, and we will explain next time the uniqueness and oneness of God in His names and attributes. Thank you for those who listen to this video. See you soon, inshallah. Peace be upon all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.